Lemoore Planning Commission regular meeting, May 11th, 2020. Everybody please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Three.
Roll call, Commissioner Clement. Here. Commissioner Day.
Here.
Commissioner Franklin.
Here.
Commissioner Mead. Here. Commissioner Coolwine.
Here.
And I am here. Number 3, public comment. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the Planning Commission on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The Commission is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the Commission, any handouts for commissioners will be provided to the Planning Commission Secretary for distribution to the commissioners and appropriate staff. This time I'll open it to public comment. Is there anyone on for public comment that you don't? All right, seeing none, close the public comment. Item 4, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 13th, 2020.
Mr. Chair, if there is no other discussion by my fellow commissioners, I move that we approve the minutes of our regular meeting on 13th of April, 2020.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second it.
A motion by Commissioner Clement and a second by Commissioner Franklin. Call for a vote. Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin?
Aye.
Commissioner Day?
Aye.
Commissioner Mead?
Aye.
Commissioner Coolwine?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Item 5, public hearing, the general plan amendment number 2020-02, zoning map amendment number 2020-02, planned unit development number 2020-01, tentative subdivision map tract 848, and major site plan review number 2020-01. A request by Lennar Homes for 5 approvals to develop 362 lot single-family residential subdivision in 3 phases with a 1.1 acre park on 54.1 acres, along with general plan and zoning map changes only on 23.4 acres. The project is located south of Bush Street and east of College Avenue in the city of Lemoore. It is mitigated negative declaration has been prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Mr. Brandt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. As you can see, this is a bit longer of a staff report than what we usually see here. So I'm going to go through this pretty much in the order that it's written in the staff report. And then I'm sure you will have questions. So I'll take quick questions, 10 questions afterwards. So first I want to describe that this item is made up of 5 approvals that are being asked for tonight. All of them are so that the subdivision or residential neighborhood being proposed can be approved as it's proposed. So the general plan amendment changes the land use designations that are on the general plan map, and I'll talk about each of these in a little more detail as we go along. The zone change changes the zoning designations on the zoning map in the municipal code. The planned unit development is what approves the overall project layout and the amenities that are being proposed. It also allows the city to approve lot sizes that are smaller than what's in the current zoning ordinance, and also to approve different building setbacks than what is normally allowed in the zoning ordinance. The tentative subdivision map divides the property and sets the construction phasing, of which there's 3 phases to this project. And then finally, the major site plan review, like most site plan reviews, reviews the project in relation to the existing zone standards, besides the ones that are modified by the plan unit development. So the most visible part of the major site plan review on subdivision projects are the review of the master home plans. As you know, the municipal code has some architectural requirements for the master home plans. So I'll start with the conclusion. The staff is recommending approval of the project, subject to the findings and conditions that are in the resolution after this staff report. So going through the project, this is a 362 lot single family subdivision. The subdivision would include a 1.06 acre park. There'd be a landscaped trail that run along where the existing high pressure gas lines are located, and there'd be perimeter landscaping around the major streets that surround the subdivision. The smallest home there's 9 home plans submitted, 9 types of floor plans. The smallest one is 1,103 square feet. The largest one is 2,985 square feet. On the subdivision, the smallest lot would be 4,000 square feet, and the largest one is 12,315 square feet. As I said, there's 9 different home plans. 4 of those plans have 3 different elevation types, and 5 of them have 2 different elevation types. Page 4 of your staff report shows the location of the site, with the black and yellow line outlining the location of the site. Page 5 shows a blow-up of the subdivision map. There's also full-size copies on the wall here to your left. So this shows the subdivision map shows the phasing, how the project will be phased, and the major and local roads that will be built, along with cross sections for those. Previous relevant actions, this area, which is commonly referred to as the west side, was annexed in 2000. The project site itself is parcel 10 of a parcel map that was approved in 2005. Page 7 of your staff report shows the existing general plan land use designations, and you can see there's 4 different land use, or actually 5 different land use designations on the site right now, and the change being proposed is shown on page 8, which would show how those designations would change to accommodate the proposed project. One of the newer things that we have to evaluate now, it's a law that was passed and became effective just this past January, is a law that was passed in response to the housing crisis for California, and that is that cities are now not allowed to make changes to their standards or to their general plan or zoning ordinance that would effectively decrease the density of residential areas, decrease them to less than what they were in 2018. And that was the date that January 1st, 2018, that's the date the law proposed. So this is the first time we've had to evaluate a project based on that new law. And so page 10 of your staff report has a detailed table where we evaluated the project against the realistic density that's described in the general plan housing element. So the top part of the table shows here's what the housing element expected the number of units to be on the site. The middle portion shows what would happen if the general plan amendment was approved but not the subdivision, and then the bottom shows what would happen with the tentative map being approved. And it didn't just magically happen that it all came out to 479 units. We worked with the applicant to make some modifications to the project so that we could make the finding that there is no loss in density with this project. So we can, it's staff's recommendation that you should be able to make that finding that we're following this new law. With regard to the tentative map, I'm on page 11 now. The tentative map is going to be built in 3 phases. The 4 major streets surrounding it would be Bush Street on the north, College Avenue on the west, and then the new streets, Peterson Street on the south and Seamus Drive on the east. So your staff report describes the phasing on which portions of those roads would be built with each phase. Phase 1, which kind of works its way through the middle of the subdivision, would have access to Seamus Drive and to College Avenue. So there would be 2 major ways in and out, even with phase 1. And then by the time the subdivision is complete, there's 4 ways in and out of the subdivision. And the reason for that is that all of those major perimeter streets are arterial streets in the city's general plan. And so arterial streets are designed to limit the access points so that arterials can carry a heavier flow of traffic. One kind of aside that we noticed when we were reviewing this project is that the general plan refers to College Avenue as College Drive. And I'm not sure where that discrepancy occurred, but it's officially known as College Avenue. So since we're doing a general plan anyways, a general plan amendment anyways, we wanted to fold that in, and we'll have the council officially make sure that the general plan calls it College Avenue in the future to avoid any confusion. Regarding the major site plan review, there are the comments are attached to your staff report. These are the typical comments that we got from engineering department, fire department, building department, and police department about the subdivision, and just listing out the requirements that the applicant will need to follow in order to meet the existing standards and policies and laws in the city's municipal code. With regard to the streets, near the project, first of all, there was a traffic study that was prepared to go along with this nice hefty mitigated negative declaration, which I'm sure you all read. And it recommends changes to the vehicle lanes on Bush Street, particularly at Bush and College, and then the new intersection at Bush and Seamus. I'm not going to go into the details, but basically what the traffic study is doing is making sure that traffic still flows, especially on Bush Street, because we know that that's heavily traveled during school rush hour. So that's what would be happening right adjacent to the subdivision. Off-site, the traffic study is recommending changes to the Bush Street interchange, the on and off ramps, and also to the Bush Street Bellhaven Drive intersection. So what the traffic study recommends is either to signalize all three intersections or to put roundabouts at those intersections. Both of those things are quite expensive. And what the city has been doing is working with Caltrans on an alternative where we would do temporary roundabouts. That's what Caltrans calls temporary roundabouts. It's using striping and barriers to create a roundabout without having to go in and rebuild the roundabout. They've done this in a number of places, and in fact, I think there's a quote-unquote temporary roundabout that's been in Modesto for about 15 years. So they do work the same. They operate the same way as a regular roundabout. And then, so those would be put in at the interchange, and then the Bellhaven intersection would be changed to a two-way stop intersection, and that would keep the traffic flowing on Bush Street. So we're working with that. Caltrans has bought off on the concept and saying that would meet the requirements of the traffic study and the mitigations. So we're just working with them on the design at this point on how that would work. And frankly, we know that we need something there anyways. This project just helped move that conversation along. With regard to storm drainage, there's a storm drain pond right there to the west of the site. It is going to be expanded to its fullest extent, and then will operate initially as a retention basin, which is where water stays at that site and percolates into the ground. And then by the time the entire subdivision is done at the end of phase 3, it will be converted into a detention basin, which means there will be a pump and a pipe that can pump water out of it before it gets full. And so that's actually part of the city's storm drain master plan to handle water that way. So,
Steve, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where would that water go?
I believe it's going to the wetlands area. Related to the park, there's a 1.06 acre park being proposed. Staff's recommendation is that be built with the first phase of development. I think it's shown on the map as part of the second phase. And that would just be so that there'd be something there for the first homeowners to enjoy, since there aren't any other parks nearby at this time. The city has a standard for the amount of acreage that a residential developer should contribute based on the number of lots in their subdivision. And that actual amount is determined during the final map stage, but we can get an estimate at this point. They would require about 5.79 acres of park acreage. We've worked with the developer, and they've agreed to the concept of building a trail along the high pressure gas lines, which is also in the city's general plan to do that. And then that acreage can count toward their park contribution. So we'll continue working with that. You can see on page 14, the basin that I was talking about and how it's going to be expanded. And then page 15 shows a conceptual for how the trail would get constructed, and it also shows a concept for the park. Okay, related to the planned unit development, and I'm actually going to go to page 19 because this makes it easier to describe. So The planned unit development is proposing, there's basically two types of neighborhoods within the subdivision. There's lots that have a minimum of 50 feet wide and 80 feet deep, and other lots that have a minimum of 50 feet wide and 100 feet deep. So there's two sets of plans that not every home is going to fit on the 50 by 80. So the applicant proposed setbacks to accommodate the lots, and staff is recommending a slight modification to those setbacks, which you can see in the table on page 19. The middle column is what the applicant proposed. The left column is what is the zoning ordinance normally requires. And then the right column is the staff recommendation for the PUD, for this PUD. The difference we found is that the plan 7512, which is also called the olive plan, is the one that's got the deepest home for the 50 by 80 lots. And it would, on a 50-foot lot, it would require a 10-foot front yard and 10-foot rear yard. We're saying that we would only require that, or only allow that on a lot that is an interior lot, not a corner lot, if the lot is 84 feet deep. If the lot is deeper than 84 feet, and there are a number of lots like that, we would want the 12-foot front yard setback. And then we're recommending that particular home plan not be built on a corner lot if that corner lot is less than 84 feet deep. The reason is because the corner lots have a curve, a rounded corner, and that corner of that house is getting very close to the corner of the intersection. So the next page, page 20, shows how we see the lots actually working out, or actually the home plans actually laying out on those lots. And so even though it says 10-foot rear yard, there's really only two of the homes that are going to be close to 10 feet on the rear yard setback. And even though we say 12-foot front yard, there's really only going to be 5 out of the 12 that are going to have a 12-foot front yard. And the reason is because we also have a 20-foot setback to the garage. So a lot of the homes can't go any closer without not meeting that requirement. So this is one that we kind of had to work back and forth with the applicant quite a bit, and we think we have it figured out and to the point where we can support it. Also in your packet are the elevation plans and the colors. The zoning ordinance doesn't specify, well, it does specify some architectural standards. We've gone through those, and the homes do meet those standards. The biggest one that everybody talks about is the 6-pack rule, which is that the same home can't be built, next to another home. So at the staff level, we've worked that out to where they can, when they turn in plans for building permits, we're able to see how they are keeping that and meeting that requirement. Finally, on the environmental assessment, as I said, we prepared a mitigated negative declaration in accordance with CEQA. The project was circulated for 30 days, or the document was circulated for 30 days. We got 2 responses, one from the Department of Toxic Substances Control and one from PG&E. Both of the letters contain comments that are typical of what we would expect to see. A lot of the DTSE comments. I don't know that they're really applicable. They mentioned something about pollution from roads, and there weren't any roads in this site ever before. So we feel good with that. So we are recommending that the mitigating negative declaration also be approved. So there are a number of findings and a number of conditions that are in the staff report and also in the resolution. I probably didn't cover everything that's in there, so if there's a particular condition that you want to talk about, I'd be happy to talk about it, and also be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anyone have any questions?
There's a lot to take in right now.
I did not. It's not, okay, Judy wants me to point out, if you go back to page 19, you can see that in the first column there, the zoning ordinance normally requires that on the side yard setbacks that a two-story home have a 10-foot setback from the side yard. And what's being proposed here would be that that be a 5-foot setback for both the one-story and the two-story homes. And then the street side is normally 15, and here it would be 10. So what's happening is the smaller lots, the smaller setbacks is what's getting more density out of this site. I did just a quick analysis to estimate, and having the smaller lots, having the smaller setbacks is probably netting about 30 to 40 more homes than what would normally fit on the site. So we're seeing trends like that in other cities. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But the homes do seem to be selling.
How does this compare with the Lennar on Hanford Armona that's under construction right now? Because some of those lots are really small and pretty compact. So is this similar, or are these smaller, or can you make
I don't think
comparison?
that one has any 50 by 80 lots. So these are some of these are gonna be smaller.
Okay.
Front yard setback is, they didn't ask for a change on that one, did they? Yeah. Yeah.
They're very close to the front.
Okay.
Very close to the street.
Okay. Another
Yeah,
question.
this will be a different look.
Well, looks to me like on the interior, they're going to be pretty small and then be larger as you kind of move out around the exterior, looking at this map.
Yeah, and a lot of them have front porches, which kind of serves as a buffer between the closeness of the street to the living space. So one of the other things we noticed was when you look on the page 20 is that the one-story homes are closer, but the two-story homes are set back, and that's because two-story homes don't have the depth of their homes as one-stories usually do.
Okay, I noticed another thing in here is there's going to be one or more pull-outs for cart buses somewhere in there.
Yeah, we put a condition in for if CART, we didn't get a specific comment back from CART, but if they want a bus stop for a future bus service out there, that they can incorporate that into their subdivision design.
Is there any consideration for the similar type of pull-out for school buses, since there's not a school within this 362 subdivision?
No, usually the bus stops aren't well, sometimes they're pullouts.
In my subdivision, there are two pullouts.
Yeah.
Basically, just that way everybody doesn't have to stop,
Yeah,
when the school bus is loading or unloading. And I didn't notice anything like that in here. Because these people all have to be transported by bus, because they're not within walking distance. I mean, there are other school sites designated zoning-wise in that entire area out there, but not within this one right here.
Okay. No, we did not, actually, we didn't think of that. If that's something the commission wants to include in their recommendation, we can do that and take that on to council. Yeah.
Okay. In the overall concept, this may go back, Bob, help me if I screw this thing up, 17 or 20 years or whatever it was, when this was proposed to be a 3,500 home subdivision. There were provisions for schools, and there were provisions for, I believe, police and fire substations. And other parks. There's one park in this thing right here. And I don't know how that's going. This is pretty narrow compared to that whole 3,500 concept. But I think we need to be cognizant that those kinds of services are going to be necessary out there as that area grows. And I believe it will grow, just like the one north of Glendale will grow. We're going to make sure that we take those kinds of things into account.
Yes.
And
No,
maybe it's
I
not
agree.
really necessary for this particular project, but in the overall concept, I think it's very necessary.
And if I recall, I think there were two parks when they were developing, or looking at developing all the acreage out there. It's so massive.
Okay. I'm not trying to put it down on this thing at all. I just think we need to keep that in mind as we move forward.
Are there any in the housing area where there's I've lost my thought for the strip of lawn by the sidewalk? What's that called?
Park Lane?
Parkway.
Yeah.
About a year or so ago, the council adopted a standard, I think we took this plan commission first, where on the local streets, the developer can choose whether to have a parkway or to have the sidewalk adjacent to the curb.
Well, not both.
But no, we'd want it to be consistent throughout the neighborhood. On the perimeter streets, there will be a parkway. Oh, yes, so there's an existing bike path along the south side of Bush Street. So we've got a condition in there. It appears from the map that the block wall behind those lots that are along Bush Street, like there's only two large lots there. It's really close to the bike path, so we just put in instead of trying to redesign everything, we said you need to just protect that bike path because we want it to stay continuous. The bike path will likely be the south side sidewalk for Bush Street because there's not room for both. And I don't know that you need both.
Yeah.
So Steve, looking at this, every house they have, the sides will be 5-foot setbacks unless it's a corner lot.
Yes,
And then they have to have
unless not every lot is 50 feet wide, but yes, if the lot's 50 feet wide, it'll have 5-foot setbacks.
Okay. So they'll be fairly consistent. There won't be some with wider setbacks than others as you go along the street, from what I see here.
No, they're not significantly different. Some of the lots, and I can't read it on mine, this is small, but some of the lots are, 54 feet wide, 56 feet wide. So they're going to have wider setbacks. And when that happens, then the developer, along with the home buyer, determines, do you want to split, do you want it on the middle or do you want to put it on one side? So, oh yes, so we because of the 5-foot setbacks, we wanted, and because we know the front setbacks, the front yard's going to be smaller, we wanted to make sure we did something to encourage the homeowners to keep their refuse cans behind the fence. So we have a condition to put in a 4 by 12 foot pad behind the fence so that they'd have room for the 3 trash cans. Yeah, and then there'd be a sidewalk to get to there from the driveway, and then also to go to the side yard door to the garage.
But in any respect, there would be a minimum of 10 feet between houses, right? Because of the 5-foot setbacks.
Oh, yeah, there'll still be 10 feet between
Okay.
houses.
No matter if they wanted to shift it one way or the other, there's going to
Correct.
be a minimum of 10
There'll be a
feet.
minimum of 10, yes.
Stu, I don't know if this is time to bring it up, but forward thinking, you have a college out there that's going to grow.
Mhm.
There's going to be more buildings. There's going to be more students. There's going to be more vehicles. Just for example, I don't know if any of you know, but this year until COVID hit, the state men's and women's basketball championships are going to be here in Lemoore, which is a big deal, being involved with athletics. I mean, obviously it got shut down. But what I'm alluding to is there forward thinking as far as signalization when there could be development some point in time to the north of Bush Street across from the college, because initially that was going to happen back in the day because a perfect place for student population to live. And that's a challenge from my time out there where students were trying to find a place to stay here in Lemoore. There was going to be the possibility of housing on campus, privatized, and then the college would furnish the land and that went south. So is there forward thinking as far as the traffic that's going to be in and out of just Bush Street right now? Because back in the day, we talked about going north, but the railroad didn't want us crossing the tracks. Okay, and then there was talk, well, if we can't go over the tracks, we'll go under the tracks. Never materialized because, you know, it was going to be a massive plan.
Yeah.
Then there was talk about going to the south and using the overpass where the train used to go to Stratford back in the day. But then, you know, that kind of fell through. So if we're only looking at Bush Street right now with all this expansion as time marches on, have you thought of what you would do for the traffic pattern?
Yeah, and that's what the traffic study looks at. It doesn't, the typical way of doing a traffic impact study is you look at what's happening right now, what would happen if the project was approved, and then what would happen if the project was approved and everything else that's in your general plan was also built. So you look at different scenario. Obviously that last scenario happens out into the future. And so they're able to tell, is this going to work in the future based on analysis of our land use designations? Frankly, that's why we're having to do those fixes to the interchange, is because it's starting to trigger too much traffic. Yeah, there will probably be a day when Bush and College is signalized. It's not needed at this time.
Do you think
but-
that just one intersection would be enough to handle all the potential traffic?
Well, see, what you're going to get now as things built out is now you're going to have Peterson Street as well. So there's more ways to get out.
Right.
Eventually, it all goes to Bush Street.
Right.
But initially, there'll be more ways to exit the college.
Possibly you might have a 4-lane coming into the college.
Or, yes, no,
Two
we're
and two.
expecting Bush Street to be 4 lanes
4 lanes,
eventually.
Does that study still look at the possibility of connecting with 198?
This study did not. But I mean, I
That
don't
was
know that that's off the table. It might be a long shot, but I don't know if it's off the table.
Maybe not in my lifetime, but it makes sense that something like that will have to happen.
it's very easy to get on if you're going west. And, you know, you just go under and then you're
Yeah.
going east. I mean, yeah, east, that's, yeah.
No, I'd agree.
As
Yes.
far as the traffic study, when was that actually conducted?
You mean when, like the initial, like when were the counts taken?
Yes, like actually looking, so like, so for instance, if we were done last week, right, like the traffic would look a lot different than as opposed to 2 months ago.
No, it was much more than 2 months ago. See if I can find it really quick. Well, put it this way, the report itself is dated August 2019.
Okay.
So it's been before that.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I have no more questions.
And then I guess I'll open it to public comment,
Okay? Public hearing.
public hearing. Anybody on the phone
That wants to speak.
have anything?
This is Jeff Keller with Lennar Homes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Listening in, it's kind of difficult to hear what's going on. Steve was breaking up a lot. But we, from Lennar's standpoint, we'd like to thank staff for getting us to this point this quickly. Due to the new Caltrans requirements that are coming up in June. There are a few items that we're not necessarily in the council. The refuge container pad, Lennar Homes does not do that. And I'm not sure where that came from, because we just noticed that in the staff report today. I guess we received it Friday. But for pretty much most of this, we're in agreement with what's going on. We were hoping to do the park as part of phase 2 and not phase 1. We understand what the city's position is on that, but it's something that I thought we had agreed on, that we would kind of do the trail in lieu of that and push forward on the park when we got to phase 2 and just develop like the frontage of the park with phase 1. I guess that's about, in addition to aside from that, we're pretty much in agreement with what staff has here, and we appreciate working with the city and working with our home sites to get the lots to work.
The concern you mentioned about the refuge slab, is that the place for the garbage cans to be placed behind a fence so they're not visible from the street? That pad of 4x8 or whatever was mentioned there?
I guess the man door and the rear of the garage.
Yeah, some hard surface to get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So you did say that the parkway, it will be done along with phase 1, correct?
The park,
The parkway,
when we had the trail,
yes,
I'm sorry, the trail or the park?
the trail.
Yeah, the trail, we were planning on doing that with phase 1 and just the frontage along the park to, get some greenery there outside of the curb and gutter sidewalk, and come back with phase 2 and do the parking.
Okay. Sure.
All right, this is Judy Hallwell. The reason why we are requesting the park as part of phase 1 is because if you look at the different phases on the map, phase 2 abuts the high power gas line and that's where the trail would be. So it makes sense for the trail to be part of phase 2. And then there's 152 homes that are going to be built in phase 1. And they're not going to have any place for the children to go play or for people to go out and have barbecues or whatever. And so that makes sense that with that many housing units, that we just feel like for that community, they really need some type of amenity for them to go to. And so the phase 1, where it starts up along Bush and Seamus, and then it comes down, and then it goes down, it narrows down, it goes two sides of the park, and then goes out to College Avenue. That makes sense to put the park in phase 1, just because it's already going to be, the roads are going to be built up around it on 2 sides, and it's a nice amenity for the community. And that's why we're requesting that. We'd like it to be a condition. It's because when you think about the people that are going to be living there, phase 2 might be a long way off. We don't know how soon these homes are going to be built. So with 152 homes in phase 1, we just felt like they're asking for a planned unit development. They're asking for very small lots, very short front yard setbacks, that we need to have something for the community members that are going to live there. And then as far as the concrete pads, we have other locations in the community that have been built with 5-foot setbacks, side yards. Actually, the Aniston Place one, the very back along where the railroad tracks are, those are 4-foot side yards. And you can drive through there and you see all of their refuse containers out in front of their garages, on the side of their garages. They're just all over the place, but where they aren't is behind the fence. And so we just feel that this would make it better for the homeowners that live there if there's an amenity that encourages them to take their refuse container and put them behind the gate. And then have a sidewalk path to the front driveway and to that back gate, that back door leading outside of their garage. So it connects it all and they have a nice walking path. It's just an amenity for the homeowners that live there. And as staff, we have to think about our community. And so that's why we're asking for that to be a condition of approval.
Right. So there is no ordinance about leaving trash cans out?
There is an ordinance, so that makes it more of a burden for our code enforcement, because they are supposed to put the containers back away.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But this project is a great project. We've been wanting a project out there by West Hills College for years and years. I've been here since 2002 when the college first opened, and I've been waiting for additional development out there. So we are very much in favor of this project. But like I said, staff looks at the community that's going to be there and how can we help it out a little bit to make it, just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Judy. Anybody?
I got a question about the refuse containers, sir. If the proposed condition that we're asking for isn't a viable solution, is there an alternate solution that Lennar would propose?
I'm sorry, again, you stated it, I don't know if it's, I generally hear the council members, or planning commission members pretty good, but Judy was just really breaking up, as was Steve on that line.
Sir, I was just asking.
Just ask a question.
Sir, my name is Greg Franklin.
Go ahead.
I was asking if there's another solution that we might be able to come up with where we can just put the refuse containers away so they're a little bit more hidden from the street.
Well, we're willing to look at that. And we can work that out with staff, I guess, before the city council meeting, if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
And one other item on that that we have a little disagreement about is along a trail along the rear of the lots, I think 155 to 177, 157 to 177. Staff is asking for a wrought iron fence, and we prefer to put a block wall along there for privacy for our homeowners. It just seems I don't think I'd want people walking through my backyard and looking at, you know. I don't know how you feel. And Judy, you were breaking up last time, and I did hear you say it was a great project. I appreciate that from Lennar's standpoint. Thank you.
Okay, so do you have anything else, Jeff?
I think that's it for now.
Okay, I'll explain to the planning commissioners what our thoughts were about the trail. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
A little bit.
Okay, I'm a little closer to the microphone. So I spoke to our city manager, Nathan Olson, about this, and Steve and I, and we all talked about what's the best plan for those homes. There's the 20 lots that back on to the high power gas line. And it's going to be a nice amenity once it's all completed with the park-like features on this path with shrubbery and trees and some park benches. And our fear is that if you get a block wall on this side and then you have multifamily housing and commercial on the other side and you have another block wall, then you're just going to have this trail where people are going and there's not going to be any eyes on it. And so this would be similar with the wrought iron fences as the golf course community, where all of the homes that are adjacent to the golf course, they have the wrought iron fence. It actually makes their backyards feel more like a park-like setting and larger than if they just have a 10-foot backyard or just, 10, 12 feet, whatever it ends up being. It actually gives them a better view and more to look at. And there's the eyes on that trail, which is what we want to do, is provide safety for people to use that trail. I think it's going to be a great amenity, and I think that the homeowners will actually like it. And so that's where we were looking at that. We don't want a block wall that's just going to get a bunch of graffiti because no one has their eyes on that strip.
Makes sense? Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anyone else have any comments?
Well, this may sound a little bit off the wall, planning commissioner. I used to be a golfer. I used to play a lot out at Lemoore. And I really liked the fact that there was wrought iron fences on, seems like they were always on the right side because I always slice it that way to see the backyard. But it was more open and it felt like the place was larger. And it wasn't like it was graffiti where I was gonna hit a ball, I was gonna bounce somewhere else, stuff like that. So I like that idea for that purpose. In other places I wouldn't, but for that purpose, I think that's very appropriate.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Is there any forecast as to when the phases would be in completion?
Mr. Holloway, you can answer that?
You're asking when the phase will be completed?
Any type of forecast, when this might begin and when the phases might start and end?
I think we're projected to start early next year. And we're not sure exactly how, with the current environment right now, it's kind of day to day on some of these issues, but we're planning on pushing forward as soon as we can.
So can you just hypothetically, what kind of month next year are we looking at? Wintertime or spring or summer or any idea at all? And I know you don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, we have to get the plans approved and processed, and then from there, so we're probably looking at, first of the year, it would be the absolute soonest to get plans done and get them approved by everybody in the city.
Okay, 6-8 months, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
To start, and we typically absorb 4 to 5 a month is our goal. So, we could do the math. You're looking at 2 to 3 years per phase.
Okay. That answer your question, Mike?
Yes. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? For public hearing? Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing.
Any final questions?
If there's no other questions, we want to entertain a motion.
Go for it, Bob. You've been waiting a long time.
Sure.
So your motion would be to recommend this to city council. So this isn't the final step. You would just be asking staff to take this to city council. Then it goes to city council for a first reading. And then if they want to move forward with it, then it will go to the second reading before it receives approval. So that's, if you want to make a motion, that would be it. And I would just like to also say that Lennar has been very good to work with. They work very good with staff. They've been a good developer. They've built here in Lemoore several places, and they're a good developer.
Thank you, Judy. You can tell by the reports that they put out. Everything is very informative. No, they didn't leave anything out. So what Judy was saying was we approve this as it's written, and then any changes, if there's any changes that come, that would come at city council anyway, correct?
Yes.
Recommendation about the pull-out areas for buses, did we want to add that into?
Oh, if you want to add that recommendation, we can add that in as a condition.
Buses.
I think we should. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there criteria on having the pullouts in certain areas with a certain amount of population? Or is that just something we suggest for safety?
No, because the city doesn't run, we don't run the school buses and we don't run CART. So if we were in control of the bus system, we might have some standards like that. But what we do is we just ask the agencies and say, where do you want something? And then if they say, hey, we really think there should be a pullout here, then we'll require it during the design of the subdivision improvement plans.
I can speak to that a little bit, being superintendent for many years. There are walking distances that are mandated by the state, kindergarten, 1st through 8th grade, high school, and how far away students have to walk without busing being required. And there are certain areas where you have a subdivision of maybe 100 homes or something like that, and the school's 1.5 miles away. So it makes sense to take a certain area along some street and make that little indentation there where students can gather, so that when it's time to get on the bus or when it's time to get off the bus, that bus can pull over and be out of the lane of traffic, because otherwise traffic both ways has to stop, and that creates a hazard. And so it depends upon the area and the proximity of the school. Now, that really doesn't apply much to high schools. It's more elementary, junior high kids don't drive. It's more for K-8 schools. And looking at this, the nearest school would be Ingall. It's too far to walk. And you got 41 and all kinds of stuff like that. If you look at that proposed subdivision north of Glendale, the closest school is Meadow Lane. That's too far to walk. And so it's important to have some type of safety areas like that. And it's also convenience for the pedestrians, for the drivers. Because at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:35, you don't want traffic lined up for a block while kids are getting off and on a bus.
Let alone fog.
Yes.
So Commissioner Mead, are you saying that for this development, if they had one, that would be sufficient?
No, I think we'd take at least 2. Because that's a pretty good sized area.
Yeah, right.
And so if you kind of split it up so that it was equidistance from anywhere in that 362 subdivision, there are 2 places where kids get off and on buses safely. That might be very appropriate. And that doesn't take a whole lot of space. I mean, there's one on Silverado, for example, if you're familiar with that. And
Right.
it's nice. And what that does, instead of the parkway, I mean, you almost go up towards, you kind of eliminate that little parkway that, that 5 or 6 foot area,
Mhm.
and they pull right off on there. So the developer really isn't losing any property for putting a home on that space. It's
Oh,
just,
I see what you mean, yeah. Because it just comes out of that.
right out of that.
Right.
6.
Okay.
All right, then, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a
Yes.
motion. Go ahead.
Yes, I move that we approve site plan, the site plan project including the 362 lot subdivision along with 1.1 acre park with the adjacent street construction of widening of portions of Bush Street, College Avenue, the alignment of Seamus Avenue, and the new alignment of Peterson Street, along with an addition of pull-out areas for buses with a minimum at this particular time for 2 and possible more, depending how staff decides to complete this project.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Clement. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, second
And
by
this-
Commissioner
and then-
Franklin.
Just for clarification, your motion is for what is in the resolution, the draft resolution.
Yes,
Okay,
Resolution number 2020-05.
yes. Resolution 2020-05,
Resolution 2020-05.
yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Clement and a second by Commissioner Franklin. Call for vote. Commissioner Clement,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Day,
Aye.
Commissioner Mead,
Aye.
Commissioner Colwine,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Look forward to seeing this thing come to fruition. It's been a long time.
So do we.
We do too.
All right, item 6, Director's Report. Next to you, Judy.
All right, so just a few things that we've been working on a lot. You know about the McCann project out there. That general plan amendment and zone change was approved by council. It went through the second reading, so that one's good to go. Lacey Ranch, that's the project, the residential project up north. We're still working with the developer on that one. I think I mentioned that we do have an application, so we're working on that site plan review process already. Venture Place, that's a road out in the industrial park. There is a project there. We have an application for a cannabis development. It will be cultivation, manufacturing, and offices and such out in that location. So we're working on that site plan application now. That will be brought to you when we get to that point.
Can I ask a question there?
Sure.
Is this kind of a follow-up of the cedar place that didn't make it through last year for the agricultural production?
Is this the same developer? This is not the same developer.
Not the same developer, but the same concept?
Same concept.
Okay, that's
Yes, similar.
Yeah, not in my backyard over there.
Right, different one. So there's that one, and then the one that's up at Hanford-Armona Road and Highway 41, that 16 acres, that vacant lot near the gas lines that are there. That project came to you, it was approved, we approved the multifamily housing there. The commercial portion is about 4.5 acres, I want to say. They've submitted a parcel map for the commercial portion, so we'll be bringing that to you after we get that one all ready to go as well. And I think, is there anything else that we've been working on? I think that's about it. These are big projects. They take a lot of time to get them to you. But we do have development going on. It's good to let you know and the community that we do have development, even in these times where it seems like everything's at a halt. We're still moving forward and we still have development applications coming in. So we're hopeful. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 7, commissioners' reports and requests for information. Anyone have anything? Commissioner Clement?
No.
Commissioner Day?
No, just excited about this project going through. Having been a student at West Hills not too long ago, that was something that as students and the group of student leaders, we wanted to see kind of a bridge between the community and the school. You know, because right now the school's kind of isolated, you know,
Right.
outset. Building a housing development right there is definitely going to start to fill in that gap. So as more projects like this come about, then also you'll get more commerce out there, and it'll really start to fill in. And I'm really excited to see that.
Commissioner Franklin?
No.
Commissioner Mead?
No.
Commissioner Coyle?
Good.
I just want to thank staff for, I know that had to have been a lot of work. And the fact that with everything going on and you guys aren't really at work, but you still are working probably more than you ever did. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, then the meeting is adjourned.
Working at home is hard, too.